foremost, my mom called a very informal family meeting, and she informed my brothers, especially my brother Jimmy. I remember my brother Jimmy. That I was different, that I was special, and that they needed to promise mommy that they would always take care of David, Damian, Didi. I was afforded the possibility of becoming the person that I am today because my brother fought for me at a time that was really, really important for me to shape the person that I was supposed to become.
An incredible childhood, and it wasn't one thing in specific. I would say it was really my childhood in its entirety. I remember just being around family constantly. My parents having our cousins and our tios and tias over. There was constant, always music and food and dancing, and the kids running around. And for me, all the the music, the food, the dancing, the yelling, the screaming, that was all sounds of joy for me. And that was my childhood was really filled with a lot of love. All those things, all the love, all the joy, that's kind of really what's influenced who I am today. And I'm very, very fortunate to have had the family that I have, because it really is at the core of who I am.
Supposed to be doing. Although my father would send me during the summers to my older sister so I could learn how to be a wife, but that didn't really stick on me for very long. I also had the experience of having family members that were gay that didn't also have the language of being a lesbian. Because my tia was, I would consider her a lesbian, but I don't think she would call herself a lesbian. But she had women partners for as long as we remember, but it was always my tia and her friend, and so there wasn't really a language. So I feel like in my coming out, I brought a language to being gay or being lesbian, and my family was very accepting of that.
I came out after college. It wasn't that painful. Most of my friends had kind of put two and two together. But it was harder for my family because I wasn't certain what they knew, particularly my mom. So my brother kind of outed me to my family, and my mom was kind of upset about it. But then the whole conversation shifted, and at one point she just said to me, why didn't you tell me yourself? And I just said I didn't want to disappoint you, and her response was, you're my son, I'm always going to love you. So for years and years I was afraid of hurting her, and to find out that it did very little to change anything.
My mother is my best friend. Always had an open relationship with her, but we always talked about it. And it's not until I actually acted upon it, when I actually finally fell in love with a woman, when I was 23. And that's when, and then I thought, oh, I'm so in love with this woman, so now I'm going to go. I was invited by the Cristina show at the time. My entire family in Guadalajara saw the taping, and then I just became connected with my natural father, my biological father, Vicente Palacios, and so, and the whole Palacios clan is, one of the founding families in Puerto Vallarta. So it was very interesting that
I would definitely have to start with my mother. My mother is a key role model for me because, again, she's a great example of a woman of faith. She's a great example of hard work. She's a great example to commitment to her family and her community. So I would start with her as my leading role model.
I'm very proud to follow in that footsteps. My mom had been one of the first Spanish-speaking hospice volunteers in our county, which I just think it's Latinos historically have not used hospice a lot, and so it was a really great thing. And then I ended up getting my PhD, and I did my dissertation on the intersection of Mexican American culture and American healthcare culture and the intersection of that at the end of life. So I traveled up and down the valley, and I collected testimonios from people who had, had intersected with the healthcare system as they had lost somebody. And I was really proud because, we often talk about being culturally competent in our work, but I actually took my mom with me as like my cultural interpreter. And so I took my family to other people's families, and we sat around kitchen tables and, talked about stories of, of how it is when somebody's sick and how it is when somebody's dying, and those very hard decisions we all have to make. So I was so I finished that, and I'm also proud to say, God rest her soul, my mom died in 2002, and the last trip she got to make was watching me defend my dissertation. So it was a great family event.
I remember one day coming home to my mother after classes and telling her, sitting down with her at the kitchen table and just letting her know that I was gay, or that I'm gay. She looked at me and she said, "I don't care what you are, you're my son and I love you for who you are." And so because of that, she gave me the power to really, she empowered me, I should say, to be happy and comfortable with who I am.
My cousin, who I'm very close to, she's like a sister, was already out and had to have the big family meeting. I didn't have to do that, and for me, it was a quick decision, and so because I was very sure of myself, my family knew that, okay, not to question me. And in my family there are a lot of openly gay and lesbians, so it just seemed to follow suit.
I never had the conversation with my parents. My father, I don't think, would have given a rat's ass. Let me put it this way, I know he wouldn't have given a rat's ass. I have a lesbian sister, and there was issues with her, and he said, you know, whatever makes you happy, pa'lante. My mom, she eventually, you know, has known, you know, I've introduced her to someone I was dating a while back. There was no problem. She, you know, never wanted to talk about it. And I guess in my family, it's just one of those things where it's there.
All up the P-Flag group, and we're looking for her mom, and our mouths just dropped because the first thing we saw was her dad holding a sign, and she ran to them. And it was very emotional for me because I saw how proud she was that her dad, somebody that had said, "I don't accept you, leave my house, you can't be a lesbian." It took 12 years, and he was out there marching, and that's what the group did for us. That's what being together and talking, and that's what the support is about.
So it was beautiful.
Yeah.